Hi friends, welcome back to Cloudy with a Chance of Sprinkles. Today I'm going to show you guys how I made these adorable winter wonderland character cakesicles. We first need to start off with some blue and some white cakesicles. I did 3 blue and 2 white to do the design. And the first one we're going to start with is the snowman one. So the snowman one needs some earmuffs so he doesn't look like a bald snowman. You could also make a little top hat. But what I'm doing is I'm just taking some blue fondant and then making the earmuff part. So I'm making some circles and checking out how the size works on this cakesicle. And then I'm going to flatten out the circle a little bit so that it fits on the side of the cakesicle. Now I'm just going to take some more of that same color blue fondant to roll out what will go over the top of the cakesicle to connect the 2 little earmuffs that we just made. And once I have that size nice and right, I'm going to take all of these little fondant pieces and then just use some edible glue to get those on to the cakesicle. Now we need to make a little nose for our snowman. I'm just going to make mine a round nose. I thought it looked really cute. But if you ever wanted to do like a carrot looking nose, you can absolutely do a different shape. I'm just rolling out in like a little ball, kind of like an oval shape with some orange fondant, and then getting it on there with that edible glue using a small little paintbrush. And then for the eyes and the mouth, we're going to take our edible pen. It's from the Sugar Bell. You can get it at Michael's. They sell that brand and it writes on chocolate really nice. And I'm just going to draw on some eyes and a smile for our little snowman. Our next cakesicle we're going to work on is going to be the polar bear. So I'm going to grab a white cakesicle and then I'm going to first make the ears by just taking some white fondant and rolling out some spheres out of it and flattening out those spheres a little bit so that they lay nicely on the cakesicle. And then once I have those ready to go and they're about the same size, I'm going to take the end of my little paintbrush here and just put some little dents in here. These are going to make these look like ears as opposed to just like round spheres on the cakesicle. So I'll put some little dents in there. We're not poking all the way through. And then I'm going to take some pink fondant and then I'm going to get a tiny little amount so that it fits in those little dents and those little divots that we just made in that white fondant. And then we can take the back of our paintbrush again and then push those in a little bit so that we get the look of a little ear for our polar bear. The next thing our polar bear needs is his little nose. So I'm going to take more white fondant, and then I'm going to make like a rounded out rectangle here and then place it about in the middle of our cakesicle. Now our polar bear also needs some arms, so I'm just taking some more white fondant and then making just these little arm shapes. I don't really know what shape to call that. They're just little white globs of fondant. And then I'm going to place them near the bottom of the polar bear here. So he's got little arms there. How adorable. How cute is he? Oh my goodness. And then we're gonna take our blue fondant because our polar bear is cold, even though he's a polar bear, and he needs a scarf. So we're gonna roll out some blue fondant, and then I'm gonna just cut some strips out of it and then get a little pattern on there, a little texture on there to make it look like a scarf. I'm gonna have two pieces, one coming from each direction of the cakesicle to kind of wrap around in the middle to get that scarf look. And then we can just glue that onto our cakesicle so that our polar bear is nice and warm. Taking our Sweet Sugar Belle edible pen again, I'm going to just draw on some eyes here and then a little nose, and then we have a complete little warm polar bear. For our last little character of this set, it's going to be our penguin, and I'm going to be using a blue cakesicle. I rolled out some white fondant here so I can cut out the head and belly shape, if you will. I'm kind of tracing the outline of the cakesicle here so that I can make sure what I cut out is a good size for what will be, like I said, like the head and the belly part of the penguin. It'll make more sense when we put it on the cakesicle. And then I switched up my tools here because the pen blade is a lot sharper, it works nicer. That fondant tool wasn't quite sharp enough to cut this, so I'm making the bottom part, which is like the little stomach part, and then the top here kind of ends up coming in like a little heart shape at the top. And then we are gonna put that on our blue cakesicle. Our penguin also needs a scarf, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the polar bear, where we're going to roll out some blue fondant, cut some strips out of that, get some little scarfy texture on it, and then wrap it around from either direction on our penguin. For the finishing touches, our penguin gets a little orange nose, just a tiny little blop of orange fondant, and then we can take our edible pen again and draw on the eyes for our penguin, and then he'll be all done. Now it's time for the extra cakesicles that are kind of just a fun little design that complement the characters. The first one we'll do here is the one with the snowflakes. So I have these little snowflake plunger cutters that I'm going to use to get the little snowflake shapes to put on the blue, one of the blue cakesicles. So I rolled out some white fondant. And then these are actually, because like they're so intricate, I kind of try to really squish them around and get that fondant from around it to kind of detach itself. That small one worked super duper nice. And then on this larger one, some of the pieces were not wanting to come off. So it's a little bit trickier, but if you let your fondant sit out for a little bit and dry out for a little bit, it should be easier to cut through as well. And then I'm just gonna go in with my pen blade and cut off any extra pieces that are there that shouldn't be there, so that the snowflake looks nice and clean to put it on the cakesicle. So to finish off the snowflake one, I'm just using that edible glue to put some of that glue on a blue cakesicle, and then I'm going to take my snowflakes and put them on the cakesicle. If you let the snowflakes dry out a little bit more too, they might be a little bit easier to work with. Mine weren't totally dry, so some of the little arms of the snowflake were wanting to go astray. But I think it turned out super duper cute. I love those snowflake fondant cutters. Our last one is going to be our sprinkle cakesicle, because what is a cakesicle set without a sprinkle cakesicle? I'm using Love at First Frost by Sweet Polita. It's from their 2021 advent calendar, which I love their advent calendars. So I just set those aside. I have them in like a little silicone muffin holder. I don't know. I feel like it works really well for the sprinkles. Then I'm going to take my mini kitchen torch to warm up the chocolate so that my sprinkles can go on there really nicely. This is so I don't have to like drizzle on chocolate. Sometimes it's nice if I don't have chocolate ready to go in a bag to drizzle. Put on the big pieces first, and then I sprinkle on the rest, and they should stick right to the chocolate pretty nicely. Now one of my favorite things is right here. This pink thing is my little sprinkle saver. When you put sprinkles on something, they can land in the tray, and then you can use the tray to dump it into the bottle. I put the sprinkles on the small nozzle for some reason, so I moved them over to the big nozzle, and then they just fall right out back into their bottle, and then you're ready to go. That way you don't have too many sprinkles that end up on your floor, and you get to save them. So there you have it. Those are all the cute little Winter Wonderland character Cakesicles. I hope you enjoyed.